You've written a screenplay, you want to see it become a movie, but first you need to know if it's working. That means that you need feedback.
Well, it needs work.
You could pay for it. I mean, you definitely could. There are thousands of individuals and consultants and services who will gladly take your money, but I'm going to give you 3 reasons why most writers don't need to and shouldn't pay for notes. And then I'm going to give you tips on how to get professional feedback for free. The first reason that you shouldn't pay for notes is because the experience and therefore the quality is usually just not there. I can see the dislikes streaming in now from all the people who charge for notes or who have paid for them and don't want to admit that they shouldn't have, and that's fine. Go ahead and click that button. It doesn't matter. The truth is, there are countless people who pivot to reading scripts for money because they know how much they can get paid for it, even if their qualifications don't add up to much more than like a contest placement or a summer internship at Disney. And I'm telling you right now, that is not enough. And then there are services that charge for coverage as opposed to actual in-depth analysis. And that's hilarious because coverage is something that actual businesses in the industry, such as studios and production companies and agencies, have readers and assistants do for them. These are quick, bare-bones summaries that tell a company whether they should or shouldn't move forward with a script. It's not actionable feedback for a writer, so why would you pay for it? But Nate, I thought that you said you used the blacklist before and that can be a worthwhile service. Yeah, that's true, but again, that coverage is not written for you. It's written for the industry insiders like the reps and the producers and the executives who use the blacklist to find scripts that work for them. I've never used the blacklist for notes because that is not its purpose. Its purpose is to validate high quality scripts that are ready for the industry. And because I had one of those and because it connected with the right reader, it did help me break in. The second reason that you shouldn't pay for notes is because even if you're using somebody who is qualified, and they do exist, I'm not saying that they don't, there are still probably better uses for that money. If you put that money into a short film, or maybe toward coffee or drinks with writers or other people in the business, or maybe toward a trip to LA if you don't live there already, those investments are almost certainly going to pay more dividends than just paying for feedback on a script. The third reason, paying for notes is just not the shortcut that most people think it is. Yes, it can potentially help you get to qualified feedback a little bit faster than if you didn't pay. But by trying to skip ahead in line, you are missing out on things that would build your network and make you a better writer, and I will get to those in just a minute. But first, is it ever okay to pay for notes? Yeah, of course it is. It's not like you're doing something unethical, and there are people who are really good at it. I know some of them myself. And if you have lots of disposable income and you found somebody who's qualified, and by that I mean that they have several years of industry experience under their belts, then sure, go for it. It's going to cost you a few $100s, but go for it. Just don't skip out on the things that I'm about to talk about. Because here's the thing, I did pay for notes myself once. Real notes. It was over 10 years ago now when I used the Screenplay mechanic. And his feedback was great. He's very, very good at what he does. And, he's still working today. So if you really want to pay somebody for notes, then sure, I would recommend him. But because I had already built up a network, I realized that his notes weren't really any better than what I was already getting from friends. Take a second, click on my channel, and look at all the people I interviewed in my re-entry and Going Pro series. The majority of those writers, and many more, have given me feedback at some point or another. 6 of them did it on camera during that re-entry series. Several of them were giving me notes before I even broke in. If you did take a second to look, then you might be saying to yourself, well shit, of course he broke in then. Of course he sold a screenplay if he had people like that giving him feedback. Yes, exactly. Now you're starting to get it. This is the secret for most working writers, and it's not even a secret. It just gets drowned out by all the noise about contests and services and coverage. But if you're relying on those things, then what it probably means is that you're not putting in the effort required to meet the people who you need to meet. But Nate, I've been doing this for 2 years already. Do you know how long it's going to take me to meet a bunch of people like that? Look, I don't know what to tell you. If you're looking to break in overnight, and yes, 2 years is overnight, I am the wrong person to follow. As far as I know, there aren't any shortcuts, so you should probably unsubscribe, dislike the video, and stop watching now. But I have broken in twice. The first time after 7 to 8 years, and both times while working a full-time job and raising a family, because I approached this with a long-term mindset. So if you can relate to any of that, or you're simply willing to play the long game because you've already spent months or even over a year working on a screenplay and you've proven to yourself that you can stick with something until completion, then great, you're in the right place. So do the opposite of those things and like, subscribe, and keep watching. If you want to get good at this and if you want to break in, your absolute best bet is to build relationships with people who have experience in the industry. And as someone who didn't know anybody when he started out, I am telling you that you can take that same energy and discipline that it took to complete your screenplays and put it into building your network. If I were starting out today, I would focus on meeting 3 kinds of people. First, other writers at my level. Second, other people at my level in different positions, like directors and actors and producers and studio interns. And third, professionals in the business at earlier stages in their career. These might be writers and directors who've recently broken in. It might be assistants at an agency or development executives at a production company. It might be actors who've had a small part on a legitimate show or movie. Of these 3 groups, aspiring writers are obviously going to be the easiest to meet. And that's good because you're going to want to meet a lot of them, like dozens. The best thing that you can do is to swap scripts for feedback because just like you, they're in need of it. And I would recommend doing it with 3 to 5 people for every draft of a script. Now, their feedback's not going to be of professional quality, and let's be honest, neither will yours, but that's okay. Both of you have seen a ton of movies by now, you've probably both read a few scripts, and you have something to offer. And then you go do another draft of the script based on that feedback, or maybe you write a new one and you just keep repeating the process. You add a couple new writers to the mix every time you do this, and if you really vibed with the writer who gave you feedback before, or you just really liked the style of their feedback, you also try and do it again with them. Eventually, you'll become good friends with a few of these writers, and they will become your wolf pack or your inner circle or whatever you want to call it. And you will begin to grow together, largely as a result of that feedback. And by the way, you learn from the process of giving feedback too. It's much easier to be objective when it's not your own script. That's a big part of why I still give feedback even now, at least a couple times a month, because I consider it part of my training. Over time, your networks will grow individually and they'll cross-pollinate, and eventually one of you will have some success. And even if it's not you, you'll have a front row seat to it. You'll gain inside info and you'll be inspired by the fact that a real normal person who you knew well before they got there had some success. And with any luck, that success will start to rub off on you. They might even refer you to somebody if they think your writing's a good fit. And a referral is infinitely more powerful than a contest win or a query letter. So if you're not doing this already, go to a local writers meetup or literally just go online to any social media platform and start swapping scripts with writers today. With the second category of people, such as directors and actors and producers who are just starting out, this was a little bit of a gap for me, and I didn't start to meet a lot of these people until I was basically already a professional, and I think I would have leveled up a little bit faster if I had. These people look at screenplays from slightly different perspectives, and that perspective can be really eye-opening. It takes a little more effort to meet people in other roles, but it's not exactly hard. I'll give you 2 quick examples of how you can do this, and I guarantee you can come up with many more just by thinking about it for a little bit. First of all, short films are being made pretty much everywhere. With just a little bit of poking around on the internet or joining the odd local Facebook group, you will find advertisements for people looking for people to help with a shoot. Maybe you can do the thing that they need help with, but even if you can't, just reach out. Short films don't typically have huge budgets and they often need extra hands, and if you offer those for free, they'll often take you up on it. And the other cool thing about shorts is that they're just not a huge time commitment. So get involved, show up on time with a great attitude, and congratulations, you'll have a bunch of new film connections basically overnight. Follow up by grabbing drinks or coffee with a couple of them after the shoot, which is easier if you haven't blown your money on feedback. And there's a pretty good chance that they'll be willing to look at your script. If they're also new to this world, then they are also looking to build connections, so have some confidence in that. A second way to go about doing this: actors are regularly looking for ways to hone their craft. Consider inviting a few to a table read of your script, whether it's on Zoom or in person, and you'll probably be surprised how many will take you up on it. You can learn a lot about how well your script is working from a table read, and it's a lot more fun than 3 pages of anonymous coverage, too. Just like with writers who are your peers, if you build relationships with these people, some of them will level up over time. And eventually, magically, you'll look around and be shocked at who you know. The third category of people I was talking about, which are professionals who are newer to their careers, are probably going to take a little bit longer to connect with, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Here are 3 things that you can try. 1, just show up and be present. You can literally do that on the internet. There are so many professionals online, literally on any platform, that there really is no excuse. In places where movies get made, or even just where film professionals live, and there are lots of them all over, including right here in Western Massachusetts, you can just go to events or film festivals and places where these people show up. So do it. Second, stand out with a great attitude. If you come off as desperate, that's a non-starter. If you're the person who comments on every single tweet for no reason at all, or you're the person who beelines for the most well-known person in the room and ignores everybody else, people pick up on that, and not in a good way. And it's the same thing if you come across as entitled. You're way better off if you can engage in a way that's meaningful and authentic, saying something when you actually have something relevant to say. Or even better, maybe asking like an insightful question that they don't get asked every day. A decent sense of humor goes a long way too. And if people learn or see that you're doing interesting things or contributing to a creative community in some type of way that's positive, that's even better. The super helpful volunteer at the film festival is way more likely to make connections than somebody who just showed up there to network. The aspiring writer online who's always lifting up others and providing useful and helpful feedback is more likely to connect with others than the people who aren't doing those things. The writer who's gotten scrappy and who's managed to make a couple shorts is going to stand out from the pack. Because I didn't live in LA, the internet is where I made the vast majority of my early contacts just by showing up in online screenwriting communities and doing my best to be positive and helpful and maybe occasionally funny when I could be. It was clear to some of the professionals in those places that I was somebody who was constantly looking to hone my craft and who was also interested in helping other people get there. And that was enough for a few people to take me under their wing, and suddenly I had mentorship and feedback of a kind that I just couldn't have even dreamed of a few years before. And now I'm fortunate enough to be able to count a number of those people as friends. As a pro writer, I can tell you that I have reached out to a number of people online or locally who have demonstrated that same type of attitude, and I can tell you that I'm definitely not alone. There are a lot of writers who enjoy paying it forward, but something they have in common is this: they tend to only invest that time into people that they think have a shot. So the way that you present yourself in terms of your passion and your drive and your positivity makes a massive difference. And also, none of that means that you should wait for people to come to you. If you get the impression that people respect your attitude, reach out, send an email or a DM. Keep it simple, say that you appreciated that thing that they did or that they inspired you in some sort of way. Hopefully that's actually true. Or just ask an interesting or insightful question. That's really all that you need to do. Some people won't respond. Don't take that as a reflection on them or you. They're probably just busy, and they probably also get a lot of messages like that. But occasionally, these things lead to longer conversations, and occasionally, those longer conversations lead to things like mentorship and friendship. And if you simply show up, do the work, have a positive attitude, and reach out once in a while, over the course of a few years, you will wake up one day and realize that you know a lot of people in the industry, and some of these people have even become friends. And some of them are even regularly reading your work and giving you feedback for free. And at some point, if they really respect your craft, they might even ask you for notes. And that is a pretty good sign that you're getting good. Like I said, this is going to take time. And when you're talking to people who are professionals, even at earlier stages in their career, these are people who have probably read hundreds, maybe thousands of scripts, and who have probably got many on their plate to read at any one time. Almost across the board, they're going to be way more willing to have a conversation with you than they are to read your script. So if I were looking to get to know people in 2024, I would reach out kind of like this. Hey, I really appreciated that thing that you said about what you learned from making your movie. I'm an aspiring writer, and although I promise I won't ask you to read my script, I'd love to ask you a couple questions over coffee or like a 20-minute Zoom sometime. So that is a bold step. I get that. And again, some people, maybe most of them, will decline, probably for reasons that have nothing to do with you. But some might actually be up for it, especially if they recognize you as somebody with a good attitude. People like to give advice when they feel like they're giving it to somebody who will make use of it. Does paying $100 for script coverage feel easier than that? Yeah, it probably does. But what is better for your career in the long run? I think the answer is pretty obvious. So give it a try. How do you bridge the gap from those early conversations to actually getting somebody to invest hours of their time into reading your work? If you meet enough people, you're going to click with some of them. That's how things work. And with those people, the conversations will probably continue. And at some point, they may even offer to read your script. That happens. But if it doesn't, try this. Try the 5-page ask. If you have a script you really believe in and the beginnings of a relationship with a professional in the business, ask them if they'd be open to reading the first 5 pages. It is way easier to get somebody to say yes to 5 pages than it is to get them to read a whole script. And if you have a bit of a relationship in place, some people are going to say yes. So you send the whole script, and if they love what they read, they're probably going to keep reading further. If they don't, at least you'll know, and at least you won't have put a damper on a budding friendship by trying to make them read an entire script they didn't like. And by the way, even if they stop at 20 or 30 pages, that is a really good sign that you're on the right track, because people rarely read more than they have to, and that might be somebody who's willing to read more from you in the future. And either way, they're likely to give you feedback that's really useful. That 5-page ask is something I never hear people talk about, but it's something that I did early on in my career and had a lot of success with. So if you have a screenplay that you think is truly ready and you've begun to build a connection with somebody who respects your attitude, give it a try. And look, you don't have to do anything that I've suggested, but you do have to do something to build your network. You're a writer, you're a creative person, so come up with a creative way to meet people. Start a podcast called Development Heaven and interview development execs. Those are people at the beginning of their own careers who probably wouldn't mind an outlet to talk about them. Do 20 episodes of that and you'll probably click with 2 or 3 of them, and then you'll have this incredible source of notes and feedback and perspective from an executive for many years to come. And this is the critical part, you'll have done that without appearing desperate or entitled, because you'll have stood out from the pack by being somebody who actually does things. The point is, if you simply make an effort and adopt a long-term mindset, you can start getting feedback from a wide variety of really incredible people. So don't let paying for notes be the easy shortcut that gets in the way of you doing that.